Welcome back to Declutter and Done. For a long time, I thought feeling overwhelmed meant I was doing too much or not managing my time well. But what I eventually realized is that it usually comes from small unfinished things, piling up things you barely notice, but they follow you through the day. My home wasn't messy, but it never felt settled. My routines weren't bad, but they stopped supporting me, and the little tasks I kept putting off stayed open in my head, quietly draining my energy. This video isn't about fixing your entire life. I'm sharing 12 simple resets that have helped me feel clearer and lighter without adding more work or pressure. Let's get into it. Number 1, let's start with the biggest mistake most of us make when we try to reset our lives. For a long time, I kept thinking I needed a full reset, new routines, better habits, a cleaner space. But every time I thought that way, everything felt heavier instead of better, and I ended up not changing anything at all. The problem with trying to reset everything is that it creates pressure before you even begin. It makes small issues feel overwhelming, and it keeps your mind stuck in this constant feeling of being behind. What I eventually noticed was this. My stress didn't come from my entire life being a mess. It came from a few small things that kept bothering me every single day. Things I ignored because they felt too small to matter, but somehow never stopped draining my energy. So instead of resetting my whole life, I picked just one daily annoyance and fixed that. One small adjustment. One simple decision that made my day flow a little more smoothly. And that one change made everything feel lighter. Not because my life was perfect, but because there was less friction following me around all day. Tomorrow, I'll continue by sharing another simple reset that helps reduce mental clutter without adding more to your plate, so make sure to check back for that. And once that one daily annoyance was handled, the difference was immediate. My head felt clearer, my space felt calmer, and I finally had the energy to move on to the next thing without forcing myself. One thing I underestimated for a long time was how exhausting unfinished tasks can be, not the work itself, but the constant awareness of them. That feeling of I still need to quietly follows you through the day and never really leaves. The problem with carrying things in your head is that your brain treats them as urgent even when they're not. They interrupt your focus, make it harder to be present, and turn rest into something that never feels complete. You might be sitting down, but mentally you're still working. What makes this worse is the habit of leaving things vague, not deciding when something will be done or whether it even needs to be done at all. That uncertainty keeps your mind alert in the background, which is why you can feel tired even on days when you didn't do much. Over time, that low-level tension adds up and becomes your new normal. What helped me was learning to close loops on purpose, writing things down the moment they popped up, assigning them a specific time, or deciding clearly and intentionally that something wasn't worth my energy anymore. Once I stopped carrying unfinished tasks in my head, my days felt quieter. I could focus on one thing at a time. My downtime actually felt like rest, and I wasn't constantly bracing myself for the next thing I'd forgotten. I used to think that when a habit didn't stick, it was because I wasn't disciplined enough. Anytime I stopped doing something, I had planned waking up earlier, sticking to a routine, keeping things organized. My first reaction was to blame myself. I thought I was lazy, inconsistent, or just bad at maintaining habits. But over time, I realized the real problem wasn't the habit. It was the standard I was holding myself to. Life changed, my energy dropped, my days got fuller, but my expectations stayed the same. And that's when everything started to feel heavy. Trying to keep the same habit at the same level during a harder season usually backfires. Instead of helping, it becomes another thing you feel guilty about. And once guilt shows up, the habit doesn't stand a chance. What actually helped was doing the opposite of what I was used to. I stopped quitting habits and started shrinking them, making them easier, less demanding. Something I could still do on tired days, not just on my best ones. That small shift completely changed how I related to my habits. They stopped feeling like a test I was failing and started feeling like something that could actually support me, even when life wasn't calm or predictable. There was a long time when I believed motivation was the missing piece. I thought if I could just feel more motivated, everything else would fall into place. I'd finally keep up with habits, stay organized, and stop falling behind. So I waited. I waited for days when I had more energy, weeks that felt less busy, moments where things felt calm enough to start. And while I was waiting, nothing really changed. Life kept moving, responsibilities kept stacking up, and I stayed in the same cycle of feeling stuck and frustrated. The problem with relying on motivation is that it puts change on hold. It quietly convinces you that now isn't the right time. And the longer you wait, the harder it feels to start because everything has already piled up. Motivation doesn't show up to save you when you're overwhelmed, it usually disappears first. What made things worse was realizing that I felt even more disappointed in myself. Not because I didn't care, but because I kept believing I needed to feel ready before I could act. That mindset turned simple changes into emotional hurdles. What actually helped was shifting my focus away from how I felt and toward how things were set up. Instead of asking myself to try harder, I started asking how I could make things easier. Fewer steps, less decision-making, systems that worked even when my energy was low and my mind was tired. Once I stopped depending on motivation, change became quieter, but more consistent. Things moved forward on ordinary days, not just good ones. And for the first time, progress didn't feel like something I had to force. It felt like something that could happen naturally, even when life was full. For a long time, I couldn't understand why I felt tired so early in the day. Some mornings, I hadn't even done anything difficult yet, but my mind already felt cluttered and restless, like it had been running nonstop since the moment I woke up. What I slowly realized was that I wasn't exhausted from big responsibilities. I was exhausted from constantly deciding. Tiny decisions all day long. What to wear, what to eat, where something should go, what needed attention first. None of these felt important enough to notice, but together they quietly drained my mental energy. The problem with making the same decisions every single day is that they never really end. Your brain keeps reopening them, checking them, revisiting them. And when your attention is already stretched thin, even small choices start to feel irritating or overwhelming. That's usually when everything begins to feel rushed, even when your schedule isn't actually that full. I didn't fix this by becoming more productive or more organized overnight. I fixed it by removing decisions wherever I could, deciding things once ahead of time, creating simple defaults, repeating the same basic choices so I didn't have to think about them again. Not because I wanted to be rigid, but because I wanted my energy back. Over time, I noticed a real shift. My days felt calmer, my mind felt less crowded. I stopped starting the day already tired. I finally had mental space for things that actually mattered instead of spending it all on decisions that didn't. And after that, I started noticing how many things in my day didn't actually need my attention at all, they just kept pulling at it. For a long time, I thought clutter only mattered when things were obviously messy. As long as my home looked okay, I assumed it wasn't affecting me that much. But I kept feeling tense at home for no clear reason, even on days when nothing was actually wrong. What I didn't realize was how much visual noise was constantly asking for my attention. Too many things left out, too many surfaces holding random items. Even when everything technically had a place, seeing all of it at once kept my mind slightly on edge, like it never fully got to rest. The problem with visual clutter isn't that it looks bad, it's that your brain keeps processing it. Every item becomes a tiny signal, put this away, deal with that, remember this later. When you live in that environment every day, that low-level stimulation slowly turns into mental fatigue. I didn't fix this by organizing everything perfectly or buying more storage. I fixed it by letting fewer things stay visible, clearing surfaces, giving objects a clear, permanent home instead of leaving them out for now. choosing calm over convenience in small intentional ways. Over time, my space started to feel quieter. I noticed I could relax faster when I got home. I felt less overstimulated, less irritable, and more present in my own environment without actually owning less or trying harder. That shift made one thing very clear to me. My energy wasn't just being drained by what I was doing, but by what I was constantly seeing. And that awareness opened the door to the next reset. For a long time, I believed that remembering things was just part of being responsible. If I forgot something, I blamed myself. I thought I needed to be more careful, more attentive, more on top of things. What I didn't notice was how much energy that constant remembering was taking. Keeping track of what needed to be done, what couldn't be forgotten, what had to be followed up on. Even when I wasn't actively thinking about those things, they stayed somewhere in the background quietly taking up space. The problem with relying on memory is that your brain never really gets a break. It keeps scanning for reminders, double-checking itself, worrying about what might slip through. Over time, that turns into mental fatigue and you start feeling overwhelmed even when your to-do list isn't that long. I didn't fix this by becoming more organized or more disciplined. I fixed it by stopping the habit of remembering. I started writing things down immediately, using simple lists, setting reminders for anything that mattered. I treated my brain like a place for thinking, not storage. That change felt small, but it was surprisingly freeing. My mind felt lighter. I wasn't constantly afraid of forgetting something. I could focus on what I was doing in the moment instead of mentally juggling everything at once. That's when it became clear to me how much mental space I had been wasting just trying to keep things straight, and how many other parts of my life were quietly demanding the same kind of attention. Next, I kept hoping that once I fixed my life, things would just stay that way. Like I could reset everything once, get organized, and then move on. But that never really happened. No matter how much I planned or cleaned, things slowly drifted out of order again. What made this frustrating was the feeling of constantly falling behind. I would finally catch up, feel good for a moment, and then a few days later, the same small problems were back. Not because I did anything wrong, but because life naturally creates mess, loose ends, and unfinished things. The problem with not having a regular reset is that everything piles up quietly. Tasks, clutter, decisions, mental noise. None of it feels urgent on its own, but together it starts to weigh you down. And by the time you notice, it already feels overwhelming. What helped me was accepting that reset isn't a one-time thing. It's a rhythm. I started doing a simple weekly reset, nothing intense, just one consistent moment to check in, catch small issues early, and bring things back to neutral before they spiraled. That habit changed how my weeks felt. I stopped feeling like I was constantly reacting. I felt more prepared, more grounded, and less anxious about what I might be forgetting. Things didn't stay perfect, but they stopped getting out of hand. Having that weekly reset also made me realize something else. Even when my space and schedule were under control, there were still parts of my life quietly draining energy, things that had nothing to do with clutter or tasks at all. Then, I didn't think my phone was part of the problem. I wasn't on it all day, I wasn't constantly scrolling, and nothing about my usage felt extreme. But somehow I still felt mentally drained, distracted, and restless, even during quiet moments. What I slowly noticed was how often my attention was being pulled away without me choosing it. Notifications, quick checks, background noise. Even when I wasn't actively using my phone, it kept my mind slightly alert, like I was always waiting for something to happen. The problem with constant digital input isn't that it wastes time. It's that it fragments your attention. Your brain never fully settles because it's always switching from task to message, from thought to screen, from rest to stimulation. Over time, that makes it harder to focus, harder to relax, and harder to feel present. I didn't fix this by deleting every app or going offline completely. I fixed it by setting boundaries that matched my real life, turning off non-essential notifications, creating phone-free moments instead of phone-free days, deciding when I wanted to be available instead of letting my phone decide for me. That shift changed how my days felt. My mind felt calmer. I was less reactive. I could stay with one thing longer without feeling pulled in 10 directions. And surprisingly, I didn't feel like I was missing out. I felt like I was finally paying attention to what was actually in front of me. That clarity made something else stand out very quickly. Even with fewer distractions, there were still habits in my day that quietly drained energy, not because they were loud, but because they were constant. Next, I thought being capable meant handling things on my own, remembering everything, managing everything, keeping everything together without asking for help or changing the setup. I didn't even question it, it just felt like what I was supposed to do. What I didn't realize was how much pressure that created. Every responsibility stayed on my shoulders, even the small ones. And because I never offloaded anything, my days felt heavier than they needed to be. I was constantly on, constantly managing, constantly keeping things from falling apart. The problem with doing everything yourself isn't that you can't handle it. It's that you never get a break from managing. Your mind stays in problem-solving mode all the time, which makes it hard to rest focus or feel present, even when things are technically under control. What helped me was letting go of the idea that I had to personally hold everything together. I started sharing responsibility where I could, setting things up so they didn't rely only on me, using tools, systems, or simple handoffs instead of constant mental effort. That change didn't make life perfect, but it made it lighter. I felt less stretched, less responsible for every detail, and less mentally exhausted at the end of the day. Things still got done, they just didn't all live in my head anymore. And once that pressure eased, it became easier to notice something else. Some of the exhaustion I felt had nothing to do with effort at all, but with how rarely I allowed myself to pause and recover. For a long time, I didn't realize how uncomfortable silence and empty space felt to me. Any pause in my day, I instinctively filled it, checking something, scrolling a bit, doing one more small thing before stopping. What I didn't notice was how exhausting that habit was. When every empty moment gets filled, your mind never fully resets. There's no real break between tasks, no space to process, no chance to actually feel rested, even when you technically have time. The problem with filling every gap is that it keeps your nervous system slightly activated all the time. You're never fully working, but you're also never fully resting. That in-between state slowly wears you down and makes everything feel more tiring than it should. What helped me was learning to leave some moments untouched. Not productive, not optimized, just empty on purpose. Sitting without checking anything. Walking without listening to something. Letting a task end without immediately jumping to the next one. At first, it felt strange, almost uncomfortable. But over time, those small pockets of space became grounding. I felt calmer, less rushed, and more present. My energy stopped leaking through constant stimulation. And once I allowed myself to have real pauses again, it changed how I looked at my days, especially how much pressure I was putting on myself to always be doing something. Next, I thought resetting my life meant reaching a point where everything finally stayed in place, where my habits were solid, my space was calm, and nothing really needed fixing anymore. I kept chasing that version of done. What I slowly learned is that life doesn't work that way. Things drift. Mess comes back. Tasks pile up. Energy changes. And when you expect things to stay perfect, every small setback feels like failure instead of something normal. The problem with chasing a perfect reset is that it creates pressure. It makes you feel like you're always starting over, always behind, always doing something wrong. And that mindset turns simple maintenance into something heavy and discouraging. What helped me was changing how I thought about resetting. I stopped treating it like a one-time project and started treating it like a regular check-in. Small resets, often, adjusting instead of restarting, realigning instead of fixing everything. That shift changed everything. I stopped feeling like I was constantly falling apart and started feeling like I could always come back to center. No matter how messy a week was, I knew I had a way to reset without judgment or overwhelm. And that's what I want to leave you with. You don't need to get everything right. You just need a way to come back again and again to something that feels lighter, calmer, and more manageable. At the end of the day, resetting your life isn't about becoming more disciplined or fixing yourself. It's about noticing what's quietly making things heavier and choosing to let go of that weight one small step at a time. You don't need to apply all 12 of these. You don't need a perfect system. Even changing one thing can make your days feel noticeably lighter. Less noise, less pressure, less mental clutter. Life will get messy again. That's normal. What matters is knowing you don't have to start over every time. You can always reset gently without judgment and without adding more to your plate. Thanks for spending this time with me. And if any part of this felt familiar, I hope it reminded you that you're not behind. You're just carrying more than you need to.